Good morning and welcome to Unity Spiritual Center Saxe this July 18, 2021. It's nice to be back in the room with you after our power outage last weekend. Before we get started, I want to introduce our guest artist this morning, Candy Williams. This is her first time with us. Yay. She was referred to us by our own Robin Hackett. Welcome, Candy. Welcome. Candy Williams has been drawn to music since she was a little girl and played piano. She sang and made up her own songs before she was old enough to go to school. She grew up singing Italian arias and art songs along with musical theater, jazz, pop, and gospel, honing her skills with the best musicians and singers that Oklahoma City had. She studied as a voice major with the great Carol Bryce Carey at the University of Oklahoma and gigged with top 40 band Joker's Wild at night. After graduation and a few more years of learning, she left Oklahoma City with the band Prelude for the bright lights of Dallas, Texas. Yeah. In Dallas, Candy added theater, television, and commercials to her resume, but soon gained focus when she began working with Lenny Nance. Lenny's arrangements to her chords let her hear what she heard in her head, but better, funkier, and stronger. That made the difference in those songs you can hear on her CD, Open to Love, which will be available after service. Let's take a deep breath together. Breathe in, knowing that breath is life and life is breath. And that breath is the all-good. That is the Creator expressing through us, animating us, prospering us, sustaining us. And we know in this moment that there are no coincidences, and all of us are here together by divine appointment, whether we're sitting here in this room together, or whether we are one of the many watching us remotely, hearing the sound of my voice. We are interconnected. We are one. We are one. And so in this moment, we breathe together, knowing and affirming that we are indeed individual expressions of the divine, here to share our gifts and to bless the world in very unique ways that nobody else can bless the world like we do. So we open our hearts and minds, open as fully as possible, so that we can hear and see and feel whatever it is we need to see and hear and feel today, so that we can discover more of how we can step into this divinity more fully. Opening heart and mind, knowing all that you feel and all that you need in this moment is good and true and right. And we will have a magical journey together. Continue to breathe, continuing to know and affirm our oneness with each other and with Source, Source with a capital S. Continue to breathe fully in and fully out. Breathing in love, peace, joy, harmony, unity, and breathing out the same into the world. We are here by divine appointment. Here on this planet, and here together in this moment. And now we sing our centering song, Spirit's Prayer.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning. And why don't we all just bless the beautiful children of the world? They're just gorgeous, and we love them, and let's show them how. Let's go together. Children of light, we see you guided and directed by an inward spirit that leads you into the path that is right for you. We see you strong and whole. We see you blessed and prospered. We see you courageous and confident. We see you as the spiritually perfect beings you truly are, children of light. We bless you. And I'm going to read the word inspirational moment from 365 Science of Mind, and the word is perfection. When Jesus said, "Be ye therefore perfect, even as your Father in heaven is perfect," he was telling us that there is a perfection at the center of all things, which recognize will spring into being. We must learn to identify ourselves with this perfection, no matter how imperfect or painful or discordant the appearance may be. There is still an underlying perfection and inner wholeness, a complete and perfect life, which is God. With complete conviction, I accept the wholeness of the Spirit. And as I do so, I identify myself and everything that I am with the harmony and the perfection and the wholeness of the life of God. So if you guys will repeat with me 3 times our affirmation. I identify myself and everything that I am with the perfection of God. I identify myself and everything that I am with the perfection of God. I identify myself and everything that I am with the perfection of God. Thank you very much. Amen. Yes. Amen.
I'm Candy, as you've heard before. I'm very honored to be here, and it's really special for me because I've wanted to do these two songs forever. And the first one is from the great jazz artist Al Jarreau. And when I researched him over the week, when I was talking to Reverend Kim, I realized that when he really became in his own self, that his songs that he was writing all had his Christian foundation within them somewhere. And there is the line out, the ride out, as we say in the jazz world. And it says, oh, what you do too. And I was going, what? Boyfriend didn't even do a whole sentence. What is that? And actually, it hit me. He's quoting Matthew 25:40. For whatsoever you do to the least of your brothers and sisters, you do to me, says the Lord Jesus. And so here is one good turn. One good turn deserves another. One good deed begets another. Seeds of kindness sown in summer bloom like spring in mid-December. Say it again. One good turn deserves another. One good deed begets another. Seeds of kindness sown in summer bloom like spring in mid-December. Now listen, don't be satisfied with you got yours and I got mine. See, there's a long, hard mission underway. Come on, hitch your wagon. You can help me fire the engine. We as one will be up and away. And one good turn deserves another. One good deed begets another. Yes, it does. Seeds of kindness sown in summer bloom like spring in mid-December. Here we go. So do it again. One good turn to your neighbor. Say it. Oh, do it again. One good turn to your neighbor. Don't be satisfied with you got yours and I got mine. There's a long, hard mission underway. Come on and hitch your wagon. You can help me fire the engine.
Can we have that slide, Quentin, please? So this was up on social media today. When Jesus said, "Be ye therefore perfect, even as your Father in heaven is perfect," he was telling us that there is a perfection with a capital P at the center of all things, which recognize will spring into being. We must learn to identify ourselves with this perfection. Perfection. It meant something different to me years ago, but in a divine sense, perfection is something else entirely. And I think when we think of Jesus, he definitely was master teacher and still is hundreds of thousands of years later. He still is master teacher. We think of somebody that we couldn't possibly be like. And yet, in unity, we say that he is our way shower and our brother. He always affirmed his oneness with the Father and his oneness with all of us. He spent time with people that in his time he really should not have spent time with according to convention. But he did anyway because he embraced all. That was part of his message of perfection and the way that he expressed his perfection. And so what do we do with that when we see Jesus here and we think of ourselves and we think of the Father and perfection with a capital P? What does that mean for us? And like we talked about last week when I was discussing Kabbalah and Michael Berg's book, Becoming Like God, that is a tall, tall order. And for many of us, we think, because it's so tall, I'm not even going there. Like, you know, who am I? And I can't heal the sick, even though Jesus says we have that ability. I can't raise people from the dead, even though he affirms and he tells us that greater things than these will you also do. The Fillmores, Unity's co-founders, did healings. But they studied and they prayed and they meditated vigorously and a lot and often and persistently so that they became intimately acquainted with what perfection meant for them. So it is possible.
Yes, it is.
It is possible. But what do we do in the meantime? What does everyday oneness, what does everyday perfection look like? And we have to start somewhere, because even though our consciousness may not be up here with the master teacher, the way shower, we are still that perfection. It underlies, it is who and what we are. So first, we have to be willing to go there. Like I talked about last week, you got to be willing to go there and be able to say in your head first, because it was a huge step for me to be able to say to myself, I am a unique divine expression. I'm a divine being.
I love it.
It's enough to think it. And then perhaps perfection looks like being able to say that out loud and affirm it with power and strength. Because the things we say out loud have far more energy than the things that we'll just mull around in our heads. The things you say out loud, you start to call in the universe. And the universe responds by prompting you to greater levels of expression and perfection. So what might everyday oneness, everyday perfection look like? It's simple. Start where you are. So it could be like this week. I hadn't been networking in a very, very long time. But I decided to get on an online networking group that a friend referred me to. And that was fine, and that was good. There's probably about 12 of us in the room. And then they said, we're having a much bigger event on Friday on Zoom. And I thought, oh, okay. And I could feel the tingles of nervousness coming up. And then I started to say in my head a whole lot of excuses about why I really didn't need to do that one on Friday. And I really did have the time in my schedule to do that. And then as Friday drew near and Friday morning came, I was still thinking about it. I still had not registered for the networking group, and the name of it was Grand Collaboration. So the word grand scared me. And then I said, what am I going to do with this fear? So for me, perfection, affirming my everyday oneness, was being able to say, I can go, I can show up at that networking, grand collaboration, and stand in my power and be who I am with my gifts. So I registered. And then I showed up, and then I started to see, everybody can see the people who are now on the call, and it went from 10 people to 20 people to 30 people to 40 people. There were about 100 people on that call. And you had to come ready with your elevator speech, a 30-second one, not a minute, 30 seconds. And then be able to tell people who you are and what you do and get feedback. I'm okay with telling people who I am and what I do. Feedback is scary. From your peers, from people you don't know. Some of them are in Canada, some of them are in other countries. I think there were 6 countries represented. I didn't know who these people were. What were they going to say to me? What kind of feedback was I going to get? So my nervousness went up. And I thought, well, I could always, turn off my video. I could always disappear because, I got important stuff to do. I don't have to be on this call. But I stayed. So my oneness, my affirming my perfection that day was knowing that I could be in that room like anybody else on that call. Who knows? Maybe they were all scared. Maybe I wasn't the only one.
Blessing upon blessing.
Yes. And when that started and the facilitator came on, she was perky and she was just, oh my gosh, energy was all over. And I thought, I'm not that. And so the messages were still collecting in my head. But I stayed on the call. It was wonderful. And I got all kinds of referrals. People who said, please contact me because I can get you on a stage to speak. What if I hadn't done that? What if I hadn't affirmed my oneness, my perfection with a capital P, and been afraid of the feedback? The feedback I got, by the way, was very helpful. Very helpful. And that's the way I received that. That they were giving me a gift to enable me to step more fully in my oneness and my perfection. 5 years ago, I wouldn't have done that. 5 years ago, I probably would have been mad and defensive because of the feedback. So simply getting on a networking call is affirming your perfection. I didn't have to cure the sick on Friday. I didn't have to make world peace happen in one day in order to affirm that Jesus is my brother and my way shower, to be shown the way and accept it. And so what might it look like? It looks like for some saying yes to being on the board of this wonderful community. That's stepping up. That's huge. To be able to step up in leadership, sometimes for the first time in that kind of a capacity. That is affirming your perfection in that moment. Perhaps it is deciding that you're going to eat something healthier rather than have your regular snack of Doritos or whatever. Doritos are a wonderful thing. I'm not saying they're not. But perhaps you have been called, your spirit is calling you to affirm your perfection and oneness as a healthier being. And so expressing oneness, expressing your perfection is, I'm going to have an apple as a snack today.
With peanut butter.
Or peanut butter.
No, apple.
Which might be a step up from Doritos. There are so many ways for us to show up. You don't have to go whole hog. You don't have to go from here to Jesus this week. Maybe next week.
That's right.
All you have to do is step into something you've never stepped in before. Not this kind of step in. Express more fully who and what you are, your oneness, your divinity. Take a little step forward. I hear people say all the time, I want to be around like-minded people. Perhaps expressing your oneness and your perfection in this moment is spending time with someone you have judged not to be like-minded. And just be with them. You don't have to accept what they believe. You don't have to take them home. You don't have to change what you believe. You don't have to argue or debate. You don't have to stand your ground, but to spend time getting to know who they are at their core as you step up as yourself, your divine beingness, expressing yourself as the divine, and realizing that, yes, they are perhaps like-minded in ways that matter. Perhaps that's your way of being in your perfection and oneness in that moment. Doesn't have to be that you have cured the political divide in this country. But you can build a bridge to one person who you've judged to be different than you. Perhaps it is being more patient with your partner. I heard a Yes. Perhaps in a moment, instead of saying the thing that wants to come out of our mouth, we say nothing at all and we simply smile. We smile at them with love. Perhaps it is being kind to a stranger, extending yourself and saying good morning with a smile when you don't feel like it. Because you want to be an expression of God in that moment with someone.
Yes.
It can be simple. We don't have to go from 0 to 60. You can go from 0 to 5. You can go from 5 to 7. Perhaps it's deciding that you're going to walk. If you do 6 blocks every morning, perhaps it's going the 7th block and affirming as you walk that extra block that you are strong and powerful and that you are one with spirit. And what your physical body doesn't want to do, your divine self can do. Perhaps it's showing up at work with a can-do attitude instead of fussing as you go in the door because you gotta go to work. I'd rather be home. And I hate my boss. And I don't feel like doing this project I have to do. Perhaps you go in with curiosity and openness in that moment. And saying, I might discover something new about myself here. That's what perfection and everyday oneness can look like. And the more we push ourselves a little bit, then you can go a little further. Next week, you can go a little further. The next week, you can go a little further. And we build on that. We talk about this all the time. This oneness, this perfection is a spiritual muscle. In AA, they say it works, the plan works if you work it. Spirituality works if you work it.
Yes.
Divinity, affirming divinity works if you work it.
Yes.
This morning I was out in the garage working out and I had the garage door open and Quentin left the house before me. I have a certain security, physical security, emotional security when he's in the house. And as soon as he drove away and I had the garage door open, I felt vulnerable, physically vulnerable, because I have a history of being victimized. And so when I feel emotionally vulnerable like that, then the fear starts to come up. And I was about halfway through my workout and I thought, should I just shut the garage door and keep the world out? Or can I affirm my oneness in this moment? Can I feel secure in myself and in this perfection, this protection that I have from spirit and as myself without my husband in the house? And so I started to affirm the 12 powers as I worked out. And suddenly I wasn't afraid. Well, not suddenly. It took about 2 or 3 repetitions of those powers before I felt secure. Because placing my security in something outside of myself, for me, is showing up as less than perfection. I'm forgetting my oneness with spirit, that no matter where I am and what's going on, what circumstances I'm in, that I am safe and that everything I need in order to handle a situation is right there.
Thank you.
That, for me, was stepping into my perfection in that moment. So I didn't have to solve the crime problem in Dallas this morning. All I had to do was feel secure in myself and know that everything I need is here in this moment. And my security didn't drive away in the car. That's what everyday oneness can look like. But we stay fixated. So yes, it is good to stay focused on spirit, to stay focused on the way shower and how Jesus walked through this life. And yes, it's okay to ask, what would Jesus do? What would Spirit do? It's also okay to ask, what would I do in this moment? What can I do in this moment as my divine self? And go up just one more step on the ladder into that perfection. In unity, we always affirm that it's not just enough to know the truth. We have to live it. Knowing it is good. Knowing it is good. But at some point, if we're going to change our lives and have peace, joy, harmony, unity, abundance, we've got to start living it. And that's what I love about these principles, because you can test every last one of them and find out if they work. I liked how unity principles sounded when I first joined. I said, oh, that's nice. I didn't know that. And everybody was walking around saying, oh, this stuff works, it works, it works. And I thought, oh, that's nice. Theoretically, it is nice. But I didn't know that. My life didn't change. My life didn't transform. I didn't grow into my perfection and into this affirming of oneness until I tested them and proved them. Until I went there. Until I was able to say to myself in my head and out loud, I and the Father are one. I am perfection with a capital P. I am love. I am loving. I am prosperous. I am worthy. Not just worthy, I am magnificence. We've talked about accepting crumbs. You were not created to come here and accept crumbs. We are magnificent beings. Claim your magnificence. But magnificence in one moment can look like something different here than it does 5 years from now. Walk the journey. Do the process. Work the plan. Step out of your comfort zone. We draw these little tiny circles around ourselves. We put up the shields. We have these ideas about who and what we are based on past experience. Jesus is saying you are so much more. You are more than you can conceive of. But you'll never be able to conceive what Jesus knows about you, what Spirit says we are, if you don't start somewhere. Stop worrying about being exactly like Jesus. Many of us will never get there. Not because we can't, but because we won't dare. Because we won't start on the journey. We won't send the email we're called to send. We won't get on the networking call we're inspired to get on. We won't say yes to an invitation to come and sing because we haven't done it in a long time. We'll decline being on the board because we've never done it before. We won't say hello to somebody or invite somebody to coffee that we've had our eye on for a long time because we think, oh, they're not going to say yes. And so what if they don't? You're still magnificent. You're still perfection. You are still love. They just may not recognize it. And that's okay, as long as you do. As long as you do. Your boss may not know it, because he may not know it about himself or herself. I've been in meetings where people were sharing about their doubts and fears. It was staggering to me to see the number of accomplished people who are scared every day, who have that fraud syndrome, who think at any moment the bottom's going to drop out and everybody's going to find out they're not quite as good as they look. That's the opposite of knowing your perfection and your magnificence. Not trusting that you are a divine expression. Here are the very valuable gift to share with the world. This is important. This is where the rubber meets the freaking road. Rubber's got to meet the road. Otherwise, you are hydroplaning through life. And if you've ever hydroplaned in the car, it is not a fun place to be. When you've got no traction, and you're moving at 50, 60 miles per hour, that is scary. Scary. Put some traction in your lives. Stop messing around and telling yourself you're something other than what you were created to be. Again, you have to go 0 to 60. Go 0 to 5. Go 0 to 1. Go from 1 to 2. Go to 1.5. But just go. Just go. Just go. And you will find that your life is filled with more exhilaration, more joy, more peace, more contentment than you've ever known. You will have more opportunities to celebrate life. In ordinary moments. Ordinary moments. Let's take this into meditation. Let's breathe deeply. Breathe. Just breathe. Knowing that in this moment, a pebble has been dropped into the ocean. And as those ripples grow and expand out from that rock, from that stimulus, expansion happens. What kind of expansion are you being called to? In everyday moments. Perhaps you've had something this past week, something you were called to. And you said no. Or you turned away because you forgot who and what you are. Whatever that is, whatever that circumstance, that opportunity was, however large or small you have judged it, look at it now and say yes to it. And affirm that when opportunity knocks, in an ordinary moment, that next time you will say yes. Because you are one with this underlying perfection. You are magnificence personified. That you and Jesus, you and the other masters, all are on the same plane. They are no different than you are. We just have different levels of expression, different levels of saying yes, different opportunities to step into the world. As creators, one with the Creator, the Master Creator. We can be in any moment exactly what we are called to be. And there is no reason to fear, to doubt. This magnificence has been divinely ordained from the beginning of time You need no permission. You need no validation, except in your own mind. Except in your own mind. What will you tell yourself? Who are you? What are you? Jesus says we are one with the Father. You are part and parcel of the same force that created the heavens and the earth. All the flora and fauna, the synchronicities of nature, the beauty of the human body, the magnificence of it. You are as powerful as the mighty ocean, as deep as its depths. You are powerful beyond belief. Human belief, your belief in this moment. So just take one step up the ladder. What is next? Expression for you as your divine self. Call it in. Claim it. Name it. Say it out loud every morning when you get up. Let's breathe in. Breathing together, knowing that we support and love each other. And we are here to hold space for each other as we grow and learn and discover ourselves as uniquely divine beings. There is an underlying perfection in the universe, and we are that perfection in expression. So we say yes and thank you. Yes and thank you. Yes. Yes, yes, yes. And thank you. And so it is, and so it shall be. Amen. So while we are here in this powerful, sacred moment, let's call out the names for whom we want to pray.
My daughter Bianca, my son Chris.
For Jim. For Danielle, and Tony and Davion.
Kenneth Blair.
Melissa. Eddie and Reba and family.
And Ryan.
Joan and Debbie. Stephen and Bo.
Becky.
For Georgette and family. For Harper. For all of these beloved souls and all those that we have not named but who are in our hearts and minds as we go about our daily living. We know that they too are perfection, and that an underlying perfection and all-knowing and all-powerful force is at work in their lives, and that their highest and best is in the here and now, in exactly the way that is needed. And so it is, and so it shall be. Amen.
Amen.
So we know that Source blesses all, prospers all. So let's recite our celebration of giving together. Divine love, as me, blesses and multiplies all the good that I am and have, all the good that I give and receive, and so it is.
Okay, I said I wasn't going to talk, but I got to.
Yes, please.
I started writing this song 25 years ago, maybe. And because I said that sacred yes, I finished it 2 days ago. And here we go. If you want to dance, dance. You know, it's that kind of thing. Shoot. Nowhere to run. Then everything changed when he said, say my name. I did. And here came the sun. And so I am one. I'm one of his people. No matter where it is I go. So take this one. Use my life, Lord, I'm so glad to be one shoe. When I grew older, I was the wild one, living large and wild and free. A wise woman said, girl, you gonna be a preacher. I said, because she's crazy. Now I'm in my prime, and I look back at this one life, and I know that I was never alone. Through all my hurt and my pain and my missteps, the one that kept me strong. When I am down, nobody else around, you're always there. In and by my side, my ever-present guide, nearer than the air. And although I'm only one, I'm one of his children, no matter where it is I go. So take this one and use my life, Lord, I'm so glad to be one. need you inside. And hey, I might have screamed, I might have cried, but I'm still here and I don't know how that rhymes, but I know I like it. So I'm one of your children, no matter where it is I go. I'll be with you as one, change me for the better. I'm so glad to be one of the many, one who knows that name, Jesus, Master Teacher, Heavenly Brother, Prince of Peace, and I'm one. Thank you much.
Thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And I think Miss Candy Williams has to be here on the second Saturday. Yeah. We're going to make that work. We'll talk about it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Coffee house.
Absolutely.
I'm about to start bringing mine.
So let's bless our offering. We are eternally grateful for all of the prosperity that is happening in this community, enabling us to do the work we are called to do, spreading a message of peace, love, joy, harmony, and oneness, and perfection. And so it is, and so it shall be. Amen.
Amen.
So just one announcement. We're staying here for our celebration today. 32 years this community has been in existence. So I just want to give you a little bit of history for those of you who don't know where we came from and how we had our origins. 32 years is just amazing. So this is from Mary Lou Geist, who was one of the founding ministers here. She said, Unity Church of Saxey had its birth in Dallas on July 2nd, 1989, when Reverends Mary Lou Bishop Geist and Mary Whitfield, co-founders, held their first service in a hotel. After moving to Garland, Mary's husband Bill remodeled a grocery store into a serene sanctuary, fellowship hall, and youth room, described by many as an oasis in the desert. With the loving support of their husbands, both ministers concentrated on their adult and youth ministries. Later, Reverends Elizabeth Moat Karras, Robert Mitchell, and Edna Kirksey Dixon joined us. The dedicated congregation grew and prospered during the 12 years in Garland, allowing us to pay cash for the prime property on which our church was built. This place right here. Reverend Paulette Hogan, who joined the church in 2003, quickly found the property for us, and the first service in Saxey was held in April 2005. The youth wing was completed by Janet Yarbrough in 2007. Current ministers at the time were Paulette Hogan and Patrick Griffin, who welcomed you to their uplifting services and classes. She also said here on the eve of the 20th anniversary, I remember with immense gratitude all those who held the vision and made the dream of a permanent home a reality. While Reverend Mary Whitfield did not live to see the fulfillment of our dream, there's no doubt she has an excellent view from another dimension and is smiling with approval and delight. Mary Lou says, I send blessings of joy, peace, prosperity, and spiritual fulfillment to Reverends Paulette and Pat and all members of their congregation. So after Paulette, Judy Marie was with us from 2012 to 2018. And then I started here in February 2018, and we find ourselves here today celebrating a 30-plus years legacy of a beloved, loving, supportive community. So I am thankful for all of you. I'm thankful for all the energy that you give this place as we continue to grow and prosper individually and as a community. Absolutely.
Yes.
Thank you for all that you contribute to this place.
Thank you.
Yes. I think I made myself well up there. So let's go to our mission and vision. Your board president, Fred Gardnow.
That's what I needed, was an announcement. Before I get to that, I do have a couple things. But I will tell a story.
There you go.
There was a lady sitting on a plane, and she had a Bible open. And she's reading the Bible, and this man sits down next to her and says, "You don't believe everything in that book, do you?" And she goes, "Well, of course I do. I'm a Christian." He said, "You don't believe that story about that guy that got swallowed by that whale?" She says, "I believe that too." She said, "How could he live in the belly of a whale for 3 days?" So she thought about it, prayed for a minute, thought for an answer, and she says, "Well, I don't know, but when I get to heaven, I'm going to ask him." Guy says real smugly, "What if he's not in heaven?" She said, "Then you'll have to ask him."
Ouch.
We have one announcement that we have kind of asked people not to go out the back door because the Serenity Suite is being used today by a class she's teaching Reiki, I think, or yoga. But anyway, we don't want to disturb them, so don't go out the back door, just go out the front door. Second thing is our brick project is just winding up. I'm going to extend it until August the 1st to give everybody an opportunity to get last-minute bricks in. They won't cost you anything. If you have somebody that's in service with military or ex-military or police or fire, just give us their name, their rank, and where they serve, and we will be more than happy to order them a brick and then place it in our memorial brick path. Because it's real important. It's interesting. We have several people that come by the church, apparently. I have not looked at the tapes, but they come by the church and they leave symbols on the bricks of their loved ones. And coming from we went to wrestling. Tess and I went to wrestling last week to make some pre-arrangements for how we want the rest of our end of life. Thank you very much. End of life. And when we were out there, I thought it was very, very interesting that there's just a lot of people that want to go visit where you were last interned. Okay? So our little brick area is our way of saying thank you to people that have served and to give people a positive place that they can reflect. It's very common. The landscape team has put together beautiful landscaping around us so that you can sit out there on a bench and just reflect. So I invite everybody to do that and get your orders in as soon as you can so that you don't miss out. We only have 18 spots. So we're filling up fairly quick. Thank you. Now we'll get to the vision and mission stuff. You thought I was going to forget, didn't you? All right, everybody can read it on the screen. This is our mission and vision. We are Unity Spiritual Society. We are a thriving global community of spiritual seekers, transforming lives through love and the expression of our innately divine gifts. Our mission is to inspire spiritual and personal growth through the teaching and demonstration of unity principles toward the realization of living our best lives. Divine wisdom is at work in every area
Thank you very much for spending your Sunday morning with us. And your love and energy makes this place as beautiful as it is. Candy Williams, thank you so much for bringing the magic this morning. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Have a glorious day, a glorious week. If you're in the area, come on, get in the car. We got plenty of food. Let's celebrate together. Namaste.
Namaste.